Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, with more details after U.S. lawmakers were briefed on a military attack. Top Republicans defending the action while Democrats raised questions about how the White House plans to run the country of more than 30 million people. Good morning, Mary.
Paulie Marcus said the Venezuela military action was not an invasion. Gamblers are in shambles. I mean, low key, I don't think it's it falls to the same standard as like a full tilt shock and awe style invasion. Okay, I'm not saying that because it's my prediction as well, and this actually saves my prediction a little bit. This doesn't mean that it won't happen, for the record. Okay, this doesn't mean that it won't happen. Okay, I need you to understand. It very well might happen in the near future if they can't get the proper assurances from Delcy Rodriguez's interim presidency. Okay? What is your stake, brother? No, I'm not defending my prediction. I'm saying, as it stands currently, there is a difference between what took place here and what you would understand as like, Iraq, or what Putin did in Ukraine. Okay? What's more interesting to me, unironically, is the fact that in spite of this being a clean in and out military operation, even though it's obviously immoral, illegal, ridiculous, and for the purposes, it's still seen as like relatively unpopular. That is actually shocking to me. Because like even the most propagandized, and Americans are incredibly propagandized, it's remarkable that there are still people who are like, no, this was up. We shouldn't do it. We shouldn't have done it. And yes, when I say clean, it's still obviously an incredibly deadly endeavor. 80 Venezuelans were murdered, or at least 32 Cubans were murdered, and the rest were Venezuelans. But in terms of like how America moves, in terms of how Israel moves, that is a relatively cleaner operation than what they normally would do. This doesn't make it appropriate. Make no mistake. I'm giving you the nuance. I'm offering you a nuanced perspective here, okay? The U.S. killed 80 Venezuelans. Is disgusting calling that clean. Brother, you have to understand what I'm talking about here, okay? Yes, compared to how America moves, okay? So you think it was good? No, I don't think it was good. What? Leftists in my chat, you cannot do the same thing that we rail on hogs every single day. Okay, please, you can't do this. You have to understand. I think, especially if you've been in here for long enough, like I think I've established a little bit of charity, right? A little bit of charitability from you guys, especially considering that I've spent the last 3 whole days of my commentary railing against American imperialism. Like you have to develop consciousness at this point. You cannot have the same lack of object permanence that we deal with hogs, right? Please be normal. The best thing about Stupid Chatter's brain breaking, Hasanabi, is hearing him whimper with frustration. I think they do enjoy that a little bit. So the irony, of course, is that this doesn't mean that it's not going to turn into something like that. The reason why you need to push back against all the smaller, lefter than you streamers farming you. What? No, I don't care about that. I hope they farm me so well that they also develop a major audience. I want anyone to the left of me, or just leftists in general, to have massive audiences. I wish them an incredible career. Okay. You're ridiculous for bringing up people like that and making it seem like they're my ops or anything. They are not my ops. Not gonna lie, one day you got to listen to your stream in the car. You really don't know what you be putting people through. Okay. But I heard from SlopTubers you're pro-invasion. What? No. SlopTubers saying you support this? No, they're not. You're lying. Okay, let's continue.
Good morning, Michael. And lawmakers emerged from that 2-hour briefing with vastly different impressions. Republicans are adamant that the operation to capture Maduro does not constitute an act of war. Speaker Johnson telling reporters that this is not regime change and that he does not expect U.S. troops on the ground, arguing the U.S. will run the country by pressuring the government and blocking its oil exports. President Trump has said bluntly that the U.S. is in charge, even as Maduro's vice
Damn, he looks like shit.
president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in as interim leader.
That's Maduro's son, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Who also low-key looks like MBS a little bit. That's Maduro's large son, who kind of looks like MBS. This is a large adult son.
And in an interview overnight, Trump said it will take some time before elections can be held, that the U.S. will be involved for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, Democrats are demanding answers. Leader Chuck Schumer saying the administration's plan to run the country is vague and based on wishful thinking. And he says they didn't receive enough assurances or any assurances that the U.S. won't try to do this in other countries as well. Michael.
And Mary, without a clear plan with all this going on, the administration continues to talk about wanting to take over Greenland.
Yeah, Michael, the president is still setting his sights on Greenland. One of his top advisors, Stephen Miller, yesterday in an interview said the U.S. has a right to take the semi-autonomous Danish territory. And
what was really funny about this, before he moved to like Greenland, what was really funny about this is another moment of vindication for your boy here. Okay, I can't even hear myself think. My dad's multiple phones are ringing like crazy right now. Another moment of full-blown vindication for Yahasi over here. Oh, it turns out that the cartel of the sun was totally phony, was totally made up. Who could have thought? Who said that this justification was completely made up? Who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen that coming, dude? Wow. Shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Miller not ruling out the use of military force to do so. The prime minister there is urging Trump to stop the threats and warning this would be effectively the end of NATO. But the Trump administration is outlining a vision for a new world order where the U.S. can overthrow governments as long as it's in the U.S. national interest. And the State Department posting this picture of the president on social media yesterday with the words, "This is our hemisphere." Michael.
All right, Mary, thank you for that. We appreciate you.
We're back and continuing with the world lead and asking questions about what happened in Venezuela over the weekend and what happens now. White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller joins us now. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. So a source briefed on the Venezuelan operation told me that a handful of American troops sustained bullet and shrapnel wounds, but none are life-threatening. Can you share with us how serious any injuries to American service members might be, and also any information you can tell us about any Venezuelan civilian casualties?
Yes, well, let me take the second part first, which is that the overwhelming share of casualties and fatalities that were inflicted were against the Cuban guard that had exerted control over the people of Venezuela. So what many don't realize is that for
God, he's such a bald Nazi bitch, dude. God damn, I hate him so much. It's funny. In some ways, it is kind of interesting seeing like how ugly both the statements are, but also how ugly the people are in this administration and how weak they are, how pouty they are. Like they don't even have any redeemable qualities on the aesthetics either. You know, they're just like, well, they were doing bad stuff. They were being run by Cuba. We need to make sure that we dominate our globe here, Jake. You can tell he thinks he deserves to live. Yeah, kind of.
years, Maduro stayed in power through an illicit deal with Cuban communists to provide his security because he didn't trust his own people to keep him safe. That is how much he was hated inside of Venezuela. So what our special...
Yeah, totally, which is why we're currently using his own administration as the transitionary state because of how unpopular he was. And that's why we're still using his entire administration. Like, how does that make sense? If he is the most unpopular figure of all time, okay, then why haven't the Venezuelans welcomed your puppet as a liberator? Why didn't you actually bring Machado back into the country? Why did Machado even have to run away from the country? Why? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? Am I crazy? If the opposition actually won by 70%, because that's what they claimed, okay, with their insane numbers, okay? If that's the case, why? They're going to say Venezuelans are actually celebrating? Okay, if Venezuelans are celebrating, why isn't Machado in charge? Why wasn't Machado put in charge? You could have had 150 aircraft flying over Caracas. One of those airplanes or one of those helicopters could have had Machado in it. Why? Is it because she had to flee and she didn't want to come back because people would love her too much? You know, is that why? Trump snubbed her. Yeah, Trump actually hates how popular Machado is. That's why. That's what it is, right? It just doesn't make any sense because it's clear to, I think, everyone that's paying even a little bit of attention that we don't give a whether it's, we don't, as long as it's not Maduro, I guess, we don't give a who's controlling Venezuela, right? So why are we not using the popular leader? Why are we not using the unimaginably popular leader? CBS Evening News interview, Maria Corina Machado says Venezuela's interim president is perhaps even more ruthless than Nicolas Maduro. Why are we not using the endlessly popular Maria Machado? One must ask this question. You can't even say, it's because, Trump is a misogynist, because the interim president and former vice president is also a woman, So Trump's misogyny is not even like moving the cards in any direction here. Why?
Forces encountered when they did that daring midnight assault into Caracas were armed Cuban guards, and they sustained massive numbers of casualties. I can't give you an exact number. The numbers that you've seen in terms of the Cuban guards publicly reported are probably lower than the...
Guys, it's not because she refuses to decline the Nobel Peace Prize for Trump. Please be real. Please, I beg you, okay? Like, some of you read one Wall Street Journal article or at least see one meme from a Wall Street Journal article and you go, oh, that must be the reason. Like, come on. Did that push Trump over the edge? Maybe. Okay. I'm sure that played a role in Trump's, Trump's machinations here. Just like I'm sure the careless nature of Maduro was frustrating for Donald Trump, as is reported by also one of the major papers. They said Maduro was dancing all day and that pissed off Trump. That caused him to pull the trigger. Sure. Like, I'm sure they played a role. But the major role is still absolutely trying to maintain stability. Okay? They're trying to maintain stability in Venezuela so they can actually successfully extract the resources. Because without stability, without assurances from Delcy Rodriguez's government that you will allow every one of these foreign companies to come in and dump money into fixing up the refineries, and they will be able to keep pumping oil and shipping it to whoever they see fit. Without stability, you cannot get that assurance. Without stability, there's no extraction. Without stability, you cannot get any of these companies to go back into Venezuela and actually fix up the refineries. It's just not going to happen. So Trump right now is trying to maintain stability to the best of his ability, even though what he did was genuinely unstable, right? He thinks that if you can threaten the interim government by showing what you did to the, head of state, that maybe they'll be more likely to play ball. But he also knows that a puppet leadership is not the first option here for stability, because he understands, just like I do, like his analysts understand, just as I do, that there is no world where the Venezuelan people do not rise up against Machado. Not Trump, his analysts, the people around him, okay? Trump doesn't understand anything. We're not talking about Trump. When I say Trump, please, it's like Brandon. Like, Republicans love being like, oh, you think Brandon is making these choices? I was like, no, of course not. His brain is leaking out of his ear. No, when I say Trump, I'm using it as a catch-all term for the administration, okay? Please understand that, yes, I don't mean literally Trump is single-handedly, unilaterally making these decisions. Yeah, but Machado is also unpopular, as the New York Times also reported on, by some of the business leaders because of her demands for consistent sanctions, even after some of the Venezuelan business leaders were realizing that, like, they have to play ball with the administration. And also she's a puppet. Like, it's just, she literally was so clearly a puppet. It's the same principle with Juan Guaido. I said it back then. If you were to look at my commentary against Juan Guaido when liberals were making him out to be the media darling that every Venezuelan was like begging to take control over the country, I said it back then. These are stupid, okay? They've been at this game for decades. By now, they should have understood that running to America and running to Israel and sucking their penises is probably not going to look well in the home country, especially when sucking America's penis requires you to consistently say horrible shit about Venezuelans and requires you to consistently say horrible shit about Venezuela and demand even worse sanctions on Venezuela. This is the I am Persian, not Iranian equation that many pro-Shah dick riders also cannot comprehend. What works in America does not work in Iran, okay? What works in America for people that are demanding more cruel sanctions and demanding death and destruction for the Venezuelans that are still living there is actually going to be read very negatively. They don't know how to present themselves. Trump is a room reader, but analysts and pundits continue to vouch for her. Yeah, it's really funny that, like, they're still trying to make this happen because, as I always love to explain to you guys, there are always going to be differences in opinion within the State Department. So you have two camps. You have the serious State Department guys who are, like, seriously saying this is unstable. You can't possibly work with the Maduro regime, right? You have to bring in the puppet. You have to bring in the puppet. And then there's the other side of analysts that are saying, no, we have to try and make it work with Delcy Rodriguez. Otherwise, if we bring in a puppet, it is going to be far too unstable for resource extraction. Venezuela will fall into a failed state status, and we will have to protect our assets in Venezuela that we're stealing. And for that reason, we have to literally put boots on the ground and protect the refineries, and maybe even engage in straight up counterinsurgency like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. We should not do this. This will actually expend American resources. It will be far too costly and will end up turning into like our own USSR and Afghanistan moment. If it wasn't Vietnam and if it wasn't Afghanistan and if it wasn't Iraq, this will be America's USSR Afghanistan moment. Okay? That's it. Especially right now when multipolarity is rising, especially right now when there are other regional actors, other regional powers that have very clearly contested America's force projection, like Russia in Ukraine. Okay? And you have other regional powers like China making steady gains in their own backyard with the Asian cooperation, with the exception of the Philippines. It is very, very difficult for America to maintain its global dominance while having all of its resources and all of its efforts invested in destroying Venezuela so that they can have an Iraq-style situation in Venezuela and continue extracting resources from Venezuela after you create your own version of American stability. What do you mean the USSR and Afghanistan? The USSR's invasion of Afghanistan in the aftermath of the Afghan Civil War or during the Afghan Civil War was largely the death blow that caused the USSR to dissolve. It exhausted their resources. They f***ed up Afghanistan to begin with. It exhausted all of their resources. It was a major reason for why the USSR no longer exists. Okay? It was the USSR's Vietnam, but unlike the United States of America, the USSR could not deal with a Vietnam. Hard to disagree. Could have survived without the botching of the economy by Gorbachev and co. Fair. But I think that all of those things work alongside one another. And if you're seeing restraint from China, it's partially because they have already seen this play out before with the USSR. Once again, you have to look at what has a higher order of priority here. Like what played a bigger role in the demise of the USSR. And Afghanistan played a major role in this. America does not want to do this, at least for now. Does this mean that America won't do this? I think they will. They've shown time and time again that they have an endless appetite. It actually does benefit certain sectors. Military-industrial complex will benefit from this, obviously. And America has shown that time and time again that our civilians, our troops, everyone is disposable, so it doesn't really matter, right? But right now, the cost-benefit analysis being made is let's try to go in and out, and let's try to dominate Venezuela and force them to follow our desires here without expending too many resources, without exhausting too many resources. Because if we do that, then all of the other regional powers will be able to make gains while we're hyper-focusing on this shit. And we will not have the resources to be able to be everywhere all at once. Okay? I predict they're going to hire mercenaries. That won't work. Because remember, if you want to extract resources from any country, you have to make sure the country is stable. You're not going to be able to make up for. There is no world here if the number one goal is resource extraction. You have to make sure there's at least some level of stability. You cannot create a level of stability in the absence of not making it work with Delcy Rodriguez's administration. You have to either put a puppet in charge, which will not work. It's going to be a massive failure, civil war, failed state, all of that good stuff. And eventually you'll have to invade militarily to control the Venezuelan government. If you don't do that, and you cut out the middleman, you don't even try to put a puppet in charge, you still have to invade militarily. There is no world in which, without the actual state military, without the United States military putting boots on the fucking ground, you will be able to control the Venezuelan resource economy. It's just not going to happen. You either have to make it work with the current administration, or you have to invade. And that's the calculation that the Trump administration is making right now. And that's the reason why they just immediately cast aside Machado. They were like, yeah, Machado, who gives a shit? Might turn into a Sudan type situation. Okay, but first of all, even in Sudan, the UAE has taken advantage of sectarian conflict, ethnic tensions, and not only that, but also there's a group of people that were willing to go and slaughter the civilian population in areas that they want to extract gold from. Okay, in areas where they want to prop up gold. America does not have an equivalent in Venezuela. Venezuela is not Sudan. Venezuela is not even Iraq. Not only do they have a military, they have an air force, they have Russian jets. It's going to, I mean, who knows how competent that will be in developing air superiority for America? Because let's be real, America has not fought a single goddamn war in the last 40 years where they did not immediately maintain air superiority. And without air superiority, that is not going to be an easy battle at all. Okay? So good luck for that. Good luck to the Americans there. But in any case, the reason why I'm explaining all this is because, like, if you want to understand why they're not using Machado, these are the reasons why. Because they do not want, they cannot deal with another 20-year war potentially in Venezuela with boots on the ground. It will be incredibly costly. It will lead to America's demise.
Actual number that were killed. To your first question, No, none of the, at least as I've been briefed, none of the injuries are life-threatening. Everybody is stable. And it just underscores the remarkable skill, precision, courage, and capability of our special forces. And I wanted to set the table one more time for your audience. I'm sure you've talked about it at length already. But the United States of America launched an assault force into Venezuelan territory, which has sophisticated air defense systems, which has sophisticated surveillance systems, which has weaponry that they've received that can take out planes and helicopters from our foreign adversaries that they've been stockpiling for years in anticipation of the possibility of such an action. Maduro was staying in a military fortress. In other words, since the United States had started amassing this armada under President Trump's leadership and direction, he'd increasingly narrowed the scope of his own movement, and he was sleeping in a fortress. And so we flew into Caracas. These special forces engage in direct gunfire with elite Cuban guards, and every single kill was an enemy kill.
So there were no civilian casualties?
Well, I didn't see any reports of any civilian casualties. But my point is that in this raging gunfire battle that took place, the point that I'm making to you is no Americans were killed. Because of the planning, skill, and preparation, the enemy sustained massive losses. Not one of our...
The enemy sustained massive losses. It's like, yeah, dude, they were defending their homeland and their president. I need you to understand, like, not that it matters. We are villains here, but like, we sent in the crackhead Delta Force to go and slaughter a bunch of people on foreign soil. The people there had every right to be there. They had every right and responsibility to defend their homeland. Like, I know that this is not a fashionable thing to say in America because Americans are so hog-brained, but it's completely ridiculous.
Assets was lost, not one of our people was lost.
So let's talk about what next. Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn as Venezuela's acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, without a doubt, Zionist in character, unquote. Is acting President Rodriguez...
Sweetie, we're going to have to cancel you, Delcy. Sweetie, I know we came into your country, we kidnapped your president, and we killed a bunch of your nationals, but that's going to be a problematic take from my perspective. Excuse me. I think you're canceled. Delcy Rodriguez, you might be canceled, sweetheart.
Someone that the U.S. can work with?
Is there any proof that there was Cuban involvement? Yes, there was. The Cuban government, I think, it said that 32 of their nationals died in the process. Yes, these countries cooperate with one another. What the f is the problem? I don't understand. Of course they do. What is the confusion here? I wonder why. I wonder why two aligned nations that are slammed in the ass cheeks of American empire due to their ideological positioning would cooperate with one another. It's normal. It's like when people say, oh, well, the Russian nationals died in this process. Like, yeah, I wonder why that would have, it didn't happen in this case, but like, even if it did, it would be normal as well, because we have carefully excised these countries from cooperating in the global marketplace, specifically in the case of Venezuela. So for Venezuela, it is an act of survival. Of course, they're going to utilize whatever resource they have. Yeah, it's because it's done without U.S. consent. I guess that's what it is, right? Hassan and his Timu-level military analysis and wording, those killed were enemy combatants and soldiers. The way Hassan words his nationals like they are civilians law. Brother, they were Venezuelan nationals in the Venezuelan military. What do you mean enemy combatants and soldiers? If I come to your house and slaughter you, okay, and your entire family, I'm pretty sure they're going to call me the murderer, okay? Our assessment in this is like, well, I put myself in a self-defense style situation. What the are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, what a stupid thing. Can you imagine? I break down your door and I slaughter your whole family, you have a gun, right? And I kill you. And then I say, well, I was doing self-defense. I was doing self-defense. I can't believe you wouldn't compare. I can't believe you wouldn't say Eric Infinium in this situation is an enemy combatant. Does it matter if you're an enemy combatant or not in that situation? I broke down your door. I came in and I slaughtered your family and you. Who's the enemy combatant in this situation? ABC News says U.S. soldiers came under fire from Venezuelan troops while abducting the country's president. U.S. forces responded by murdering the Venezuelan troops who tried to stop foreign militants from kidnapping their head of state. ABC News describes this as self-defense. Upon arrival, they came under fire and responded in self-defense with overwhelming force, Kane said. The reason why he has to say this, by the way, is because it's military doctrine. Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, says the government of Venezuela governs in our country, no one else. There is no external agent that governs Venezuela. It is Venezuela. It is its constitutional government. The key witness in DOJ's case against Maduro is a former Venezuelan general, Hugo Carvajal, who pleaded guilty last year to drug trafficking and in December wrote a letter seeking leniency that backed the absurd claim that Venezuela had interfered in U.S. elections. Who else said that? Oh, that's right. Maria Machado also said that. These guys are so clearly doing everything that they can and lying about anything and everything that they can in ways that even like the average liberal can understand, okay? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I wonder if this guy is sincere. I wonder if there's a really good case here for Maduro's drug trafficking. Until yesterday, you are the one who wants to die in Maduro Hill. Wait, me? Maduro Hill? 30 years of Chavismo has worked for years to equip loyalists. Why do you think Machado is the only opposition leader there? I like that this guy is mad because this guy is mad because Trump didn't do regime change the right way. I can't believe you're dying on Maduro Hill. No, brother. There is no hill that I'm dying on, okay? It doesn't matter what I say. Even if you come to terms with exactly what I'm saying 2 years down the line, you will forever hold this anger and resentment towards me, okay? And you will, as people always do. I've heard this. Why are you dying on the Hamas hill? Why are you dying on the Saddam hill? Why are you dying on the Gaddafi hill? None of these hills were hills that I died on. It was actually hills that my opposition should have died on. But of course, no one gives a if you are wrong in the direction of American intervention. People only remember when you're wrong against American intervention. God damn, dude. Yeah, give it a year, okay? Check back with me in a year if you have an issue with it right now. Dying on Maduro Hill is what it's called when you get domed trying to capture Maracaibo for a Dodge Charger. They don't do Dodge Chargers no more, but I see the point that you're trying to make. Yeah, but that will be dying on Maduro Hill when you're trying to go through the when you're trying to cut through the mountainous terrain of Venezuela. Many hills there so that Citgo can finally be realized for all of its extraction potential. It will be so good for you and your family members. Yeah, many hills for our young boys and girls to die on. Yeah, this is my favorite. Yeah, what Trump did was illegal, but Maduro was a tyrant and dictator. SEAL Team 6 should have personally hugged and kissed him when kidnapping him and his wife. That's what a lot of liberals sound like. Or that's what a lot of people sound like when they're like, Hassan, why aren't you spending every waking moment talking about how ruthless of a tyrant Maduro was? I don't know, because I live in the real world where, you know, what Maduro has done, what we did to Maduro, we should do to Israel, okay? But we will never do it to Israel. And the reason why I say what we did to Maduro, we should do to Benjamin Netanyahu or Israel, is because Benjamin Netanyahu actually deserves it, okay? In comparison to someone like Benjamin Netanyahu, right? If this is the maximum position, extracting and kidnapping a foreign head of state. I mean, come on. That's crazy, right? That's like the maximum position. Well, there's a justification for it. He has an ICC warrant, right? He does have a literal arrest warrant, right? Bring him to justice. Maduro does not. Because guess what? What Maduro has done in his own country in terms of political repression does not meet the same standard as what Benjamin Netanyahu has done. Maduro did too, Lamar. What the f? Maduro was a dictator, Lamar. What the f are we doing? Venezuelans are rejoicing. Maduro did too. Maduro did a genocide, huh? Is that what happened? I didn't know he went into Guyana and turned Guyana into Gaza. Unc, we are destined to do this every single time America intervenes in another country. I know, and I'll keep fighting that battle every single time. And it's ironic because like these guys will inevitably come to terms with what I was saying, or they'll become full tilt hogs, right? They will either become they will either recognize the reality and go, okay, quietly. They will quietly turn around and go, maybe we were wrong about this, it turns out. Just like, Iraq, just like Libya, just like any number of different interventions that America has engaged for extraction of natural resources and complete domination of territory. Okay. Or they'll just become full tilt hogs in the process. They'll be like, oh, Hassan banned me and pissed me off, so now I hate him and everything he stands for. Don't any of these people wonder why Lindsey Graham is as giddy as a schoolgirl? No, they don't. They're too locked in on their own personal narratives. But as I've seen throughout my career, there are those who sit back and listen to my analysis, and there are those who inevitably come to that conclusion years after the fact, when the dust is settled. But those who actually come to that conclusion years after the fact, when the dust is settled, will fall again for the exact same propaganda the next time around, because they never actually reflect on why they fell for this propaganda to begin with. This is the problem. Okay? So they'll be like, oh, Iraq was bad, but this time is different. And that's what's incredibly frustrating about this process. Those who support every prior civil rights movement, every prior revolution, but not the current one. Those who oppose every prior war as unjustifiable, but not the current one. Those will continue falling into the same trap over and over again. They will delude themselves over and over again. It's very frustrating. Those are the same people who spent the last 2 years calling me a anti-Semitic terrorist, only to arrive at the same conclusions that I was delivering in the beginning of this iteration of Israel's ethnic cleansing conquest and ethnic cleansing campaign. Those who spent 2 years being like, dude, what? I can't believe you're saying the things you're saying. You're a terrorist. You're a Islamist fundamentalist. You're a terrorist. You're a terrorist. You're a terrorist. Hamasabi. Only to now quietly turn around and act like they never did that. To turn around and act like, they're also against Israel, actually. Who would ever be pro-Israel? What the f*** do you mean? Those people do not remember what I said. They only remember how I made them feel. Those people will fall again. I'm sure many of them are currently falling for this iteration. There will inevitably come a conflict where they can actually humanize the victims, though. Maybe it'll be Greenland. Maybe it'll be if America moves on like England or something, or maybe Canada, and then they'll understand. Yeah, they quietly got quieter about their support for Israel. I've noticed many of the loudest voices that were running around talking about like how Palestinians are rapist barbarians and baby decapitators. How to address this, because I experience this as well with my friends. Just be kind to them. And remember, those who you can convince, you will be able to. Those who you cannot, you just need to stop. You need to give up. The reason why I want people to be, a little bit more charitable to my perspective here, is not because I want everybody to like me and I can't stand when people dislike me or whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm a human being at the end of the day. It would be nice if people were nice to me, right? But the real reason why I want people to listen to my words and offer a little bit of charitability, especially considering how consistently I'm correct on these issues that they might actually agree with later down the line, even if they initially are against me, is because there is a little demon inside of everyone's brains, okay, that constantly tells them, no, this time it's different. Don't listen to this dipshit. He's a socialist who's rich. He's phony. He's fake. And that little demon is constantly leading you astray. It's constantly causing you to justify actions that the American state is taking that's not even beneficial for you. Okay? That's it. And as long as you don't internalize, as long as you don't self-reflect, as long as you don't actually figure out why you find yourself consistently duped, as long as you push aside how you were duped initially and move on from it, you will never learn. And the next time this happens, you'll find yourself on the wrong side of the argument once again. But there is comfort in being on the wrong side of the argument, right? I mean, there is a lot of solidarity that you get from other people who are just as dumb as you are, you know? There is a happiness that comes along with it, because it's fun to be delusional. You're going to have more fun that way. People love to invoke the horseshoe theory of politics, but leftists had a massive falling out with Biden and Dems over Gaza because they actually believe in the things, whereas right-wingers immediately abandoned non-interventionism for regime change because the leader said so. And David Bernstein in the replies, as always, it's better to be a Hamasnik than to be ideologically flexible is not a hill that I would die on. Brother, you are so lost in the sauce, David Bernstein. You want to know how low motion this kind of shit got? The ADL's very own Jonathan Greenblatt apparently tweeted at me, and I didn't even see it. He did this 4 days ago, and I didn't even see it. None of you even brought it to my attention. That's how low motion this shit is. Look, not shocking to see Hassan Piker blame the victim, but here he offers a case study in classic anti-Semitism. Hold the Jews responsible for the baseless hatred directed against them. I didn't even see this. It's so funny. You're right. The people that invited Benjamin Netanyahu hold no responsibility in the way that people associate Judaism with Zionism, and neither do you, Jonathan, even though you say it all the time, that all Jews are Zionists, and if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semitic. That's how I know this conversation has shifted so dramatically from where it used to be.
So the acting president put out a statement, I want to say, Jake, it was last night, pledging cooperation with the United States, pledging full and complete cooperation.
But they also just passed a law saying that if you supported the operation against outlawing individuals or threatening with criminal penalties individuals if they supported the operation against Maduro. I think they did that today.
Well, the good news there, Jake.
The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you. It's socialism or barbarism. Thank you for the 20 Tier 1 gifted subs, allowing 20 people to have a Hasanabi subscription. I know it's obvious, but he's talking like such a bad faith interpretation of your post, Lamar. You're not saying you like that anti-Semitism is growing. You are upset about it, but it's because of their short-sightedness and conceit. Yes. And it's also ironic because he literally leans into that. Every single person from Ethan Klein to Jonathan Greenblatt who have spent the last 2 years literally looking at Israel's ISIS-style actions and saying, oh, this is literally awesome. This is so awesome. This is actually, if you criticize this stuff, you are literally anti-Semitic. Over and over again, ended up yelling at me while proving the point that I was making. Also, what's up, everyone? It's me, Maduro Phonics, chatting from jail. Yes, Megaphonics, you were not even here when you received an award for being the best chatter of the year, which is, I know, disgusting, but it happened. Oh, look at me. I was on a trip with my wife. A trip to prison.
Is that nobody inside of Venezuela supported the operation, so it's a law without meaning or effect. Look, Jake, there's going to be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way. The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months. One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Arawakan gang members leaving the island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost fleet, the dark ships.
We've
and
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of it.
of that,
Yeah.
and now on top of all that, right? Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife.
So
of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear. Very clear. The government has sent messages, this is such an important point, Jake, to the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators. They have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that, Jake.
So let's. The question about who is now running Venezuela is one that even members of Congress who are big Trump supporters say they're not quite sure about. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't know what President Trump meant by his assertion that the U.S. is running Venezuela, and he said he needs more information. Can you tell us what the president means when he says, is acting President Delcy Rodriguez in charge? Is she running Venezuela or not?
Well, what the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force.
He's not even competent, nor is he confident enough to be able to deliver this like strong Nazi message. That's what's so funny about it. He's like, well, Jake, we live in a law, Jake. We live in a law. You mean a world, Jake? We're so strong. You're not, bitch. You're sitting in the cuck chair every night as your wife, Katie Miller, is doing whatever the fuck she wants to do, you know, with Elon Musk and maybe others. We live in a law
that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not.
Is he just uncharismatic or just not know what's even happening? No, he knows exactly what's happening. He's one of the more competent people in the administration. Come on. He knows exactly what the is happening. It's just that he is entirely uncharismatic.
Some sort of American emissary.
No, what I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and then you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that, by definition, we are in charge, because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set.
Jake Tapper doesn't even care about Miller. Miller just said we are powerful enough to do whatever we want, and what are you going to do about it? Yes. Because Jake Tapper also ultimately agrees with Stephen Miller. That's the whole point. That's the reason why I keep saying mainstream media, liberal outlets, and people who find themselves to be like liberal media darlings are also just as in line with this kind of action as anybody else. They won't openly say that they love that America is like sucking up the oil from Venezuela and stealing its resources, or who gives a about Venezuelan autonomy here. They have to abide by like some liberal standards and some liberal premises. So they'll attack the aesthetics of the campaign, right? And that's why I always say this is a stupid argument to make. People who look for moral consistency here, when America has never maintained moral consistency, and we saw that in the last 2 years with unlimited support to Israel, are also playing into the Nazi game here. Okay? It's very dumb. What do you mean moral consistency and intellectual honesty? What are you talking about? Are you oblivious to what the administration is doing? Are you oblivious to who Trump is? Are you oblivious to who Stephen Miller is? You either agree with the actions or you don't. There is no reason to just be like Maduro is the worst tyrant since Adolf Hitler, and it's really mean that we, apprehended him in the middle of the night without following process. Who gives a about process? If he's a tyrant, then it's good that he was deposed, okay? That's it. That's it. You either think it's good that he got deposed or you don't. I don't think it's good that he got deposed, okay? I don't. This argumentation that liberals engage with in an effort to create like fake civility or fake process or leaning into some kind of like stupid argument only allows the Republicans to win this conversation over and over again. So shut the up. Oh, Maduro's a tyrant and bloodthirsty and monstrous. Okay. Who's worse, pound for pound, Maduro or Mohammed bin Salman? Who's worse, pound for pound, Maduro or Benjamin Netanyahu? Who's worse, Maduro or the average American senator? Like, what are we talking about? It's so stupid. This standard is never applied to America's allies. The standard is never applied to the America's enemies that have nuclear weapons, right? Like even Maduro and Vladimir Putin. Yeah, go ahead. Do this to Russia if you can. You can't because they have nukes. Suck my dick, okay? There are people that you could do this to that would be valid, okay? And the world would cheer it on.
The terms and conditions, we have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
If that's true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country.
So
doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12 curriculum in the country.
The indictment that the president and the military were acting on from 2020 was of 6 people. 2 of them were seized on Saturday by our special operators. There are 4 other individuals indicted who remain in Venezuela. Is the U.S. demanding that they be turned over? One of them is Maduro's son. One of them is a former government official. One is a current government official. And one of them is the head of Tren de Aragua, as I'm sure you know. Are they going to be turned over if President Trump is, in fact, running Venezuela in the way you describe?
Well, I don't want to. Obviously, we have to balance here, Jake, which I think you more than most understand. We have to balance between, of course, what I can say to you publicly versus very close-hold conversations that might be happening privately. And I know you understand and respect that. But I'll answer the question in this way. There might be individuals who are fugitives from American justice that could become part of a future conversation. But it's also true that for government leaders inside of Venezuela, as the president has said, right, we want an interim government that will respect the interests of the people of Venezuela, that wants a good, peaceful, secure future for Venezuela. So I would just say it this way. For those who may be indicted.
Yeah, you guys think he's being sincere? All the Venezuelans are celebrating Andy's in the chat. You and Stephen Miller are on board, it seems. You guys, how does that make you feel? Does that make you like reconsider your stance a little bit or no? Am I crazy or does Tapper look more like a bitch than normal here because Miller keeps steamrolling him? Yes. It's also because he has to be a bitch here, okay? Because his primary position here is to defend the interests of capital. And if your goal is to defend the interests of capital, you can actually make an aesthetic argument. Okay, you can make an aesthetic, you can put forward like an aesthetic disagreement with like the way Trump conducted himself, but ultimately you agree with it. You've spent years and years talking about how Maduro is despotic, he's a tyrant, he's bloodthirsty, he's a monster, he's eating babies. Of course you're going to be like, oh, it's, I just don't really like the way you apprehended him, but maybe it was good. Like they can't even give Trump credit. I kind of understand why Republicans hate this shit, okay? I kind of understand why Republicans hate this shit because they're in the same game. Like when hogs turn around and say like, oh, these liberals are so insincere. They're such little bitches. Like they won't even give Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome. They're two-faced. Okay. They won't give Trump credit. They won't give Trump credit. They're right. They're right. They're right. Republicans are right when they get mad at the likes of Jake Tapper not giving Trump credit. Why are they right? Because these guys do agree with what Trump did. At the end of the day, I don't even think they give a about how Trump was able to apprehend Maduro, as a matter of fact. They don't care either. But they have to make this like performative disagreement in an effort to keep, whipping up the base with anti-Trump sentiment. Yeah, if I was a hog, if I was a Republican, I'd be getting mad too. And this is the inevitable ways in which liberals lose elections. This is the ways in which Democrats lose elections. This is the ways in which Democrats and liberals alike look inconsistent to the average person. Because if the average person is looking at the situation from afar going, okay, you guys told me this guy's awful. He's a monster. He's murdering, torturing, all this stuff. Then who gives a if Donald Trump came in with his big ass dick with our Delta Force, and killed a bunch of Venezuelans in a self-defense style situation and then extracted the head of a state? That makes me feel powerful, right? Who cares? No one is going to look at the situation and think, yeah, I just don't really like that Adolf Hitler was apprehended illegally, okay? It doesn't make sense. Liberals love making inconsistent points all the time. It's so annoying.
The best choice they can possibly make is to be part of a constructive decision-making process for the future of Venezuela. The best decision they can make is to cooperate fully and completely with the United States to be part of building this brighter future for Venezuela during this interim period.
On another important topic, the premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife.
Yeah, dude. Yes,
Katie,
you're right. Chavez and Maduro rigged every election. They'd rigged every election. Oh, as someone who is a dissident in my home country, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but what you're doing is cope, okay? Every election is rigged. Every election. Okay, brother. Every single one. I got it. Yeah. Not only did they rig their elections, they were so good at election rigging, they rigged the 2020 election and caused Trump to lose, too.
Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, I believe one.
We critically support Maduro, but 2024 was definitely sus. Come on. No, I'm not talking about 2024. I'm talking about how they said every election was stolen. Okay? Yeah. Take it up with Jimmy Carter, not me, okay? Take it up with Jimmy Carter. He's Mr. Venezuelan elections are fair and free, okay? Carter Institute's right there every time. That peanut farmer, God rest his soul, okay? I mean, he was shit too when he was in charge. At least he was fine after, 2024 is the only one where there was no real vote tabulations that were ever presented by the Venezuelan government, okay? That's it. That's the only one that also the rest of the Latin American countries initially were suspicious about as well, including, ideologically aligned Latin American countries in the region. However, as soon as the American government denied the election results, they all immediately said, all right, never mind. Maduro is the rightful leader. And I covered it at the time. I did. I talked about it at the time. There was some reason to be sus about Maduro's waning popularity. But also, the numbers that the opposition brought forward were insane. They said they won 70% of the country. You're out of your mind. I'm sorry. That is insane too. So yes, if the difference is like a 51-49 split, sure, that could have been the case. And that's still theft. Understandable. 70% is accurate, bro? Come on, brother, please. As someone, once again, with a lot of experience in this, okay, from my own personal experience with Turkey, a government cannot maintain a 70% unpopularity, okay? A 70% unpopularity, like an election where you win 30%, is just not happening. It's just, you are not maintaining control over that country. The only way you can maintain control over that country is if you are aligned with America, okay? If you are an enemy state of America, if you're a foreign adversary, there's no world. And yes, I know the National Lawyer Guild observed the election in 2024 and didn't observe any intimidation or suspect behavior around the election. I know. There were election monitors. I know. Türkiye Hasan'cığım, Türkiye değil. Doğru dedin. Doğru dedin abi. Vallahi yanlış yaptım. Türkiye, Türkiye, Türkiye. Eyvallah. Also, it's utterly irrelevant in this situation, okay? You know what's the least democratic thing you can do? Going to a foreign nation, bombing it, killing a bunch of the people that are defending their homeland, and then extracting the president. What are we talking about? Like, what do you mean? Oh, what about the Venezuelan democracy? Oh, I don't know. What about it? Is this the solution? Suck my dick. Get the out of here.
Should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO.
Yeah, not even Petro recognized the elections. Still, you don't see him going on and on about Maduro. Exactly. Exactly. That's why I said the only reason why I think that the last elections were maybe a little suspicious, initially, and that's a totally separate bygone conclusion at this point. But the reason why I said that is because there were, both from Lula and Petro and numerous other countries that are normally aligned with Venezuela, both ideologically and symbolically, that were like, hold on, two things. Okay, look. If we're going to do any sort of criticism of Maduro hour here, okay, even though I think it's unproductive and silly and stupid, there are two instances where all of the other countries that normally would stand by Venezuela came out and said, hold on, you're up. One was the 2024 elections, and the other was when Maduro was posturing about potentially invading Guyana, okay? That's it. Those are the two instances where the rest of the countries that are normally aligned with Venezuela were like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You need to dial it back. Those were two instances that were definitely, Maduro maybe feeling the heat of his unpopularity, got a little too big for his own britches. Okay? Yeah, I am sure Venezuelan democracy will be very important if the people vote to not hand over oil for free and become an oil extraction slaves for the U.S. Yes, of course, it's not. And it's never been about democracy anyway. And I guess, like, in this circumstance, it's somewhat refreshing that the administration is not even claiming this shit, right? They're not. So why are we even arguing on it? They don't even give a fuck about democracy. They don't care.
And thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now. So I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
States, but your wife
NATO
posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly.
Wait, what? Schumer, I asked for assurances that they were not planning operations in other countries like Colombia and Cuba, and I was very disappointed in their answer. Oh my God. Oh no.
I asked for some assurances that they were not planning operations in other countries, and I named a few of the ones you mentioned, including Colombia and Cuba, and I was very, very disappointed in their answer.
What level of cuck is this? I don't even know, brother. I don't think there's words in the English language. I mean, dude, he's not even, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, maybe it's because he's so weak that the administration sees no reason not to tell him the truth. Like, they're just like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. What the are you going to do about it? I asked for a pinky promise and they wouldn't even give me that. Yeah. Maybe he means he's disappointed because the Trump administration said they're not going to invade Cuba and invade Colombia, and he wants them to do it. I don't know. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why he's disappointed. Or maybe he's disappointed because he doesn't get to have a say in it. I don't know. They would not invite me to the military planning seminar. Did you hear that desk tap? The Trump regime is so cooked. Chuck is back, baby. That's right. That's right. Chuck is back, and can't wait from Hakeem Jeffries as well, okay? Given what's happened in Venezuela, do you regret your vote to confirm Marco Rubio as Secretary of State?
The actions that Marco Rubio has taken. Do you regret your vote?
Bernie Sanders, I will never forgive you for also doing the same. For the record, you knew who Marco Rubio was, and you voted for him. Let's be real. Let's be real. That was ridiculous. Okay, another moment, another uniparty moment right there.
To confirm him.
I am deeply, deeply disappointed in Marco Rubio even before Venezuela. And
You know what it is? Even for people like Bernie Sanders, I think like either they don't give a shit or they just don't want to eat that constant flow of anger and resentment. We have so thoroughly destroyed leftist commentary and leftist positioning in this goddamn country because anytime you're right but too early, people just yell at you. And for the longest time, Bernie used to actually have a consistent position that was like totally independent. Like, I think older Bernie would not have given a vote for Marco Rubio. Straight up. And I think they just like the most charitable interpretation of events is not that he is like, AOCIA and Bernie SS Sanders. Okay. But instead, or not older Bernie, I meant younger Bernie, like in the old days. Okay. Bernie's too old to give a fuck about what people think. He's a coward, Brody. I think so. It's crazy to me because like Democrats, they used to have, like, for all of the criticisms that I have for the Democratic Party, there was legitimately like an anti-war coalition amongst the Democrats. There was also an anti-war coalition amongst the conservatives as well back in the day. But like there was like at least some Democrats and what we would regard as like cranks, I guess, that would stand against intervention, that would literally say like, nah, it's f***ed up. Don't shit on Bernie. He's done more than you. I mean, I agree with that, but it sucks that, the best we have in the Senate is what? Bernie Sanders. And this is, he voted for Marco Rubio. Let's be real. They move with the political spectrum. It expanded too much material logic. If you don't play politics, you now have to change your position. What is this? Gaming's black Jesus. Bro's been in politics long enough to be chained. The way the L rolls off her tongue sounds prejudiced. Listen to the way you say black, shaking my head. Kidding, please don't eat me. I just think like, no, it's that person is memeing. But I think like maybe he's like, maybe he thinks he's a representation of like this broader movement, and therefore he has to like think carefully and stuff. But I think there's no reason for it, and that's the most charitable interpretation. The least charitable interpretation is that he just straight up doesn't give a and he doesn't care that America is doing endless imperial conquest overseas. It's just inconsistent in comparison to his positions in the past. That's why. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's nonsense to say Rubio was going to pass anyway, while true younger Bernie was standing in opposition solo to various conflicts. The left must not give in and not be roadblocks. Yeah. I don't disagree with you. That's why I'm saying like younger Bernie Sanders would have never done that.
Even more so now.
Obviously, there's like plenty of other demons in Congress, so I don't really care about criticizing Bernie all that much at the end of the day, because, you got to grade him on a curve. But like, god damn, dude, that is unacceptable. Like, you did that shit.
The show we had on White House advisor Stephen Miller, and he characterized the U.S. involvement in Venezuela as a, quote, ongoing military operation. And then when I asked, well, who's running Venezuela, who's in charge, he said this. Take a listen.
By definition, we are in charge because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability.
In France, socialists betray the Popular Front and will get decimated at the election. Look at LFI in France. I don't even want to. Dude, we need to be militant in our organizing. We need to be disciplined in our organizing. The Socialist Party in France is, I'm not going to say anything, but I think we are in Weimar. It's worse. It's so much worse than being in Weimar, because at least in Weimar, there was militant organizing. There was a real communist party. Sure, there were infighting with the Social Democrats and whatnot, but there was a real genuine militant socialist and communist movement. There was even a revolution. It failed, but there was one, right? There was an attempt. So Weimar 2 is even worse. Weimar 2 is so much worse because guess what? Nazi Germany is a nuclear superpower and is the hegemonic superpower that dominates the entire globe. Nazi Germany at the time, or what became Nazi Germany, did not have the capacity to literally be anywhere around the planet. Okay? Control every supply line, every trade route around the planet, with 800 plus military bases that we know of, with potentially thousands of military bases, that wrote the constitution of all these other countries in the aftermath of World War II, that have nuclear arms, with no real competition in the international stage. There was no more USSR after the 90s. It's an unstoppable force. And the only reason why America is even remotely failing in ways that we can see is because we do not have any enemies to constantly compete against. We've destroyed them. And therefore now capitalism is won. So capitalism is inevitably worsening the contradictions since the 90s, supercharging its unlimited greed. But yeah, our organizing efforts are nowhere near, even in the 20s, America had a more robust communist movement, a more robust socialist movement, a more successful trade unionist movement. We don't have any of that shit. We don't have it at all. All we have is 100 years of hatred against the left. Red Scare propaganda. It sucks.
To do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
What's your response, sir?
Well, that's the definition.
You say Revolutionary Communists of America is a good organization to build a militant movement? You're joking, right? Your name is Left is Best. You're a Majority Report chatter. There is 0% chance that you're actually a RevCom. Or actually, maybe you are. I don't know. No, RCA is different than Revolutionary Communists, right? Revolutionary Communists of America is Trot. Right? Isn't it separate? RCA, CIAIP. Also, what do you call it? No, not Bob Avakian. And also, Sam is a social democrat. That's why I'm laughing.
Mr. Miller gave a very good definition of imperialism. And that's not new. I mean, England did it, France did it, countries all over the world historically have done it, the United States has done it. We are powerful, we have the strongest military.
Wow, I haven't heard Bernie talk about imperialism like that with well-defined terms in a minute.
On earth, we can run any country we want. Is that really the kind of America that our people want? I don't think so. I think they would rather us pay attention to improving our broken healthcare system, making.
Also, as I said yesterday, support for Maduro's ousting with the military campaign went up to 37%, and opposition is at 38% now. So, just so you guys understand, as I said, the media kicked in and they did what they were supposed to, which is get you to come to terms with why this was awesome. So it worked. So when you see Harry Emden talking about it later today, which we will cover in a little bit, consent has been manufactured.
Ensure that workers have decent wages, dealing with the housing crisis, which is so significant in virtually every state in this country. But Mr. Miller did a very good job in describing what imperialism is all about.
Today, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, said he doesn't believe the White House needed congressional authorization for the...
You do it too by saying Maduro is bad? Wait, what? For the last... Shut up, bitch. Shut up. Take an hour off.
Operation. You have called on Congress to pass a war powers resolution to end this military operation that you call illegal. Would that war powers resolution have the support of any of your Republican colleagues who obviously control the majority of the Senate?
Well, I think it will, but you've got to ask them how many. Look, we have, in so many ways, a president who ignores the Constitution and the rule of law. The Constitution is quite clear. It is Congress that determines issues of war and peace. This was not a national emergency. This was not 9/11. This was not, Pearl Harbor. This was a premeditated attack. Congress should have been informed, and I strongly support a war powers resolution.
Senator Bernie Sanders to President Trump saying he is the top person in charge of Venezuela.
Well, during his campaign, Jake, as we all recall, Trump said, America first. Well, last I heard, 60% of the people in this country, in America, are living paycheck to paycheck. People can't afford housing or groceries. Our healthcare system is collapsing right now. So maybe instead of trying to run Venezuela, the president might try to do a better job running the United States of America. That's number one. Number two, very importantly, I think what Trump has done is made the world significantly less safe. If the United States...
My least favorite argument here that a lot of people also do in this community as well was like, well, what if, now Russia is going to be able to invade Ukraine, or China is going to forcibly reunify with Taiwan or whatever. And it's like, brother, I don't think anybody needed the moral permission, okay? Let's be real. Let's be real for a second. Especially after, if we're not going to factor in Afghanistan and Iraq or Libya or Syria or numerous other incursions, right? If we're just going to look at the last 2 years, do you really think that America has any leg to stand on with moral consistency? Like, do you think that our adversaries, right, our state enemies, are looking at the situation and be like, well, now is the opportunity because surely they won't be able to hypocritically argue against us, right? Are we serious? I mean, that's so dumb. Americans will never care about hypocrisy when it comes to attacking their enemies, okay? I mean, look at the situation in Venezuela. It's so dumb. I hate this argument that our foreign adversaries actually need moral permission from America or something. Yeah, the CNN. I said the CIA. The best one is CNN's absent of any actual evidence anyone in China is thinking this way. Appeals to the Chinese social media. Then if you read the article, cites 0 people on social media instead of supposedly paraphrasing a sentiment. Just completely made up bullshit. Maduro's capture is a blow to China, but on Chinese social media, it's being hailed as a blueprint for Taiwan. First of all, the Communist Party of China, if you're watching right now, okay, the Communist Party of China, this is a message from occupied America territory. Listen to me carefully. If you want to conduct a Maduro-style operation, do not actually go to Taiwan. Do not go to Chinese Taipei. Go directly to Tokyo, sirs. Sirs and ladies of the Central Committee, listen to my words. Listen to my words. If you're going to do a Maduro-style operation, go to Japan. Go to South Korea. Do not go to Chinese Taipei. I'm kidding. Take Australia. That's not a joke, actually. Finally, Australia is yours. Do Israel? They'll never do Israel. Too far. It's kind of funny because, people say, oh, what if China's going to do this to Taiwan? First of all, the reason why they won't do it to Taiwan, or if they do it, it'll be probably in a very different way, is because they're also Chinese. You fundamentally misunderstand. You fundamentally misunderstand the Chinese government's position on this. They're also Chinese. Like, it doesn't make any sense. If you were to say, like, oh, they're going to do this to the Philippines, maybe, sure. I mean, they haven't really done this in the past, at least, but like, maybe you have a better argument there, as the Philippines being like the only country in China's backyard that isn't like engaging in like a joint security cooperative agreement because they're, you know, America's lapdog. But like, people in Taiwan are also Chinese. Like, what are we talking about? That's it. So when these guys, and not only that, but also, it's such a funny way to look at and interpret like global leaders and how they analyze events, because like they make it seem as though the hypocrisy argument is one that global leadership cares about, right? Like, oh yeah, we were looking for an opportunity, you know, we were really looking for an opportunity. No, it's just no one cares about this. Okay. And if there's one country that certainly doesn't care about coming across as hypocritical, it's the United States of America. So obviously we don't have any leg to stand on. Like, it's so silly. If this shit worked, the hypocrisy argument worked, America would not do anything after, I was going to say Iraq, then I thought, okay, Afghanistan, then I thought, okay, well, there are numerous things before then. I don't know, Vietnam, Korea. It's just plenty of moments. Yeah, Gulf War, School of Americas, Jakarta, the entirety of the African continent on numerous occasions. Oh. Anyway, let's just move on. The hypocrisy shit is just, it's irrelevant, okay? It's utterly irrelevant. I don't think it plays a role in the calculations that other countries are making. I think it's more so about like, when is the opportunity that is ripe? Okay, when is a more opportune time, and how? There's a billion of these. I'm losing my mind. How did a story about a gross violation of international law, killing 80 people and extorting a country for oil by the United States, turn into a story about how sinister China is? China condemns Maduro capture, but some see it as a change to assert its global position. Trump's foray into Venezuela could embolden Russia's and China's own aggression. U.S. strike on Venezuela to embolden China's territorial claims. Claims Taiwan attack unlikely, analysts say. U.S. strike on Venezuela puts China's Taiwan saber rattling in focus. God, we are so unimaginably gross and hypocritical on everything. I don't know, man. In terms of hypocrisy or shaming the United States, I don't think Europe gives a fuck about this sort of imperialism until arguably Iraq years later. No, Europe clearly doesn't care about this kind of imperialism, because we know, we asked the European leaders 2 days ago, and every single one of them said, no, this was good, actually. Hassan, I hate watch you, not because I hate you, but because I hate America and hope it will collapse, lol. Oh, man, that's funny. Me too. Okay, same, to be honest. Okay, everybody needs to shut up. A lot of you are coping. You will probably not see this happen in your lifetimes, or if you do, you won't be there to enjoy it, okay? You won't be there. You won't live long enough to enjoy the bounties of this new system. And who knows who will actually rise from the ashes anyway. If EU LARPers were awake, they'd be really mad right now. Nobody loves defending American imperialism harder than the European Union chatters. Let's be real. Maybe not the ones that are in my chat, but like every single one of them in Asmongold's chat right now is just up. It's like 5 a.m. or however late it is in Europe, and they're no-lifers that are just like, yes, I love the Amerikanik. I love it. Yes, I will vote for AFZ. I will vote for AFD, yeah. Oh, alternative for Deutschland. Oh, it's midnight here. I'm not going out, of course. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love America. MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Makes America great again. Yeah, very good. You guys are killing the Muslims. I will not be thinking about what the Americanish intervention in the region has led to a collapse of so many different governments that led to all the Muslim refugees coming to Deutschland, of course. I will not be thinking about that. I hate the Muslims. I hate the Islam. Oh, yeah. I like to think that I'm American myself sometimes. It's so good. What a bad argument. AFD is unironically pro-China and pro-Russia and pro-America and anti-EU. Yeah, just like Giorgia Meloni was anti-NATO and anti-America. Remember that? Yes, AFD is a party of room readers. Okay? Just like every other fascist party is in Europe. But if you think that those guys are unironically going to win any power, and then if they do win power, God forbid, use that to dismantle the European Union, for example, it's crazy. AFD would destroy NATO and increase anti-EU sentiment. Oh, well, I guess I'm pro-AFD then. You cannot be pro-America and anti-NATO, okay? And you cannot be German and be anti-EU anyway. It's even dumber than the British, the England hogs being anti-European Union. And we saw exactly how that worked out for them. Yes, they can. No, dude, I'm saying it's fake. I don't believe that the AFD is actually sincere in following through on their anti-EU and anti-NATO sentiment. I think they're lying. Brexit was fake too. No, Brexit wasn't fake. But also, England was already in a separate pile with respect to the European Union. England wasn't the primary driver of the European Union like Germany is. Germany and France, and Germany with a much higher priority, is the European Union. Do you see what I'm saying? But not even the European Union necessarily, but like especially the NATO part of it is so inconsistent because the NATO part is also, it just makes no sense because you just said openly, obviously, understandably, that the AFD is pro-America. Any country that's pro-America, any party that's pro-America is not going to be anti-NATO. They'll say they're anti-NATO, just like Giorgia Meloni did. But they won't actually follow through on being anti-NATO. Also, the AFD is also inconsistent on Israel too, from what I understand. So it's not like they're anti-Semitic, but also not fully anti-Semitic. Like, I don't even understand how the fuck any of that stuff works. They're German. It's too confusing for me. I just assume that they're lying because they're German Nazis. America is currently anti-NATO. Erdogan says he's anti-NATO. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. It's like how the original Nazis were saying Jews are both strong and weak. Jews are both in charge of all capitalism, but they're also also invented socialism. They're just hitting every angle that they possibly can. Yeah, Jews are both communist and capitalist at the same time, but also monolithic. Because it's true, yes, there are capitalist Jews, there's communist Jews, right? But they're also monolithic and operating with the same interest in mind. Where's Kaya? Kaya, come here. Come here, lady. Come here, lady. Hello. You smell so bad. It's crazy. She's going to get groomed tomorrow. Rio TV, thank you for the 11 gifted subs. Okay, wait, get out of there. Get out of there. Kaya, place. Defiant. So you admit to grooming your dog? Yes. Add that to, do you think that the weak Ukrainian response will come back to bite them in the ass in the future? No. Again, the hypocrisy stuff doesn't matter. Oh my God, I can't believe Ukraine is actually supporting America doing Russia shit to Venezuela. Oh wow, that's so shocking. No, it's not shocking at all. Have you been paying attention? Hypocrisy doesn't matter. It only matters to people who think it matters. When it comes down to like state action, none of that fucking matters. Yeah, of course they don't give a shit. I mean, look at the Ukraine response to Gaza. Also, I mean, it's just like Ukraine has, I mean, here, dude, if you want to see what Ukraine's take is on, unjustifiable military incursions far before we talk about, Venezuela, there it is. None of that shit matters. What are we talking about? Liberals, don't they realize the hypocrisy? Everyone else ignoring the hypocrisy? Yeah, the hypocrisy stuff is just so stupid to me when it comes. I mean, I use it all the time because it's like very effective in communication. It's very effective in like driving home a point, right? For the average person to understand certain things. But it's completely ineffective when you're trying to talk about a nation state and how they will operate. Do you see what I mean? And like, I don't even think nation states give a shit about using hypocrisy as an argument. I mean, like Russia tries to use it. America uses it all the time. But ultimately, it's more so about like, it's more so about how much you can pump that propaganda out there rather than the efficiency of the hypocrisy argument.